find out more. Again, that's 1-800-841-3103. The Air National Guard, guarding America, defending freedom.
It's double trouble, double the fun at African Safari Wildlife Park in Port Clinton, Ohio. See the largest antelope on Earth, the giant eland, and the ugliest creature on Earth, the African warthog. There's so much to see and do, including the Midwest's only drive-through safari. Feed the animals, see live educational shows, feel the excitement. Have your picture taken with a python or cockatoo. Feel the adventure. Shop the Symbol Lodge gift shop with items available from around the globe. Visit the snack bar or picnic facilities. Enjoy a pony or camel ride. Or cheer your favorite porker on to victory in the famous Pork Chop Down. Bring your family to see the rare and exotic animals at African Safari Wildlife Park in Port Clinton, Ohio. Just take Route 2 to the Route 53 North exit and follow the sign. Only 17 miles west of Cedar Point via Route 6. Open every day, rain or shine.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike, you know.
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your move.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar.
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.
All right, and welcome back to The Balance. My name is tom-marquis, Presidente. 1 hour in the books. Thanks to tyson-lautenschlager of onpitroad.com. Giving us a call from up in Toronto, Indy Car in the streets of Toronto today, and we'll see what can happen here. Qualifying coming up in just a little bit. Make sure you follow him on onpitroad.com. The last half hour you had to endure just me because Steve Wilson of Speedway Digest is underneath the weather and is sick. So you guys had to deal with me, and my apologies. But making life better in the world for everyone is Ed Kratz, the official beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles and our official NFL contributor, joins us today on The Balance. Good morning to you, sir. How are you? Are you there? I'm sorry, I didn't turn your mic on. Let's start over. Making everything good in the world. Ed Kratz, how are you doing, sir?
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you. It helps when I turn your microphone on, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm great.
The power of the guy that of holding the microphone button is much power, but also much responsibility.
That's right. That's right.
So, Ed, I appreciate you joining us. You know, obviously, what we want to talk about, we'll talk a little bit NFL, but for the most part, what we want to talk about is this whole LeSean McCoy story. So we kind of break it down by the numbers. I did that in the last segment. I kind of just broke the story down as we know it and all the possible scenarios. But we'll kind of just go through this. First of all, I know you're very familiar with LeSean McCoy from the Eagles. First of all, before we get into this story, tell us about the man LeSean McCoy.
Well, you know, I've never had any issues with LeSean McCoy. He was here for the first 6 years of his career when he was drafted in the second round. He was the 53rd player taken overall. He had a terrific career at the University of Pittsburgh. He scored 35 touchdowns in 2 years and, you know, was a terrific player here in Philadelphia. And like I said, I never had any issues with him. He could be a little moody. There's no question about it. One day he would, be smiling and very outgoing, and he would talk to you, and the next day he wanted nothing to do with you. And I think that's kind of how he got his nickname Shady. It happened, his mother gave that to him when he was an infant because of his mood swings. He would be crying one minute, and then the next minute he would be happy and laughing, so his mother called him Shady, and it's a nickname that stuck. And, he's still that way. You can still see, he can cut on a dime is his Twitter handle. That cut on a dime, or cut on dime 25, I think, is his Twitter handle. And he can cut on a dime on the field, and he can cut on a dime off the field with his mood swings. So he can be a little prickly, but, a lot of players are like that, not just Shady. I never had any problems when he was here in Philadelphia. Actually, I kind of liked him when he was outgoing, and he was a very likable guy. But then, the next minute, like I said, he could be surly, and then you just stayed away from him. So he is prone to mood swings, and, that could be why he's gotten into some trouble here and in the past.
Well, let's break down this story. Okay, here's what we know. Obviously, there's not been any charges against LaShawn McCoy yet, so let's be clear about that. I do want to get into the predicament that this has put the Bills into in just a minute, but I kind of want to break this story down. So, home invasion in Georgia, woman gets beat up, jewelry gets stolen, LaShawn McCoy's ex-girlfriend. Ex-girlfriend's best friend posted an Instagram picture, which she has since taken down because she said that she was asked to do so because the case is under investigation. But in that picture, very graphic. If you didn't see it, it was very graphic. Woman beat up, eyes messed up, face, as she put in the 911 call, if you had a chance to listen to it, demolished. Very, very graphic picture. Text said, LaShawn McCoy, you're to blame for this. We stood silent when you beat your son. Okay, why? We stood silent when you beat your dog half to death. Okay, why? We stood silent when you did illegal drugs and steroids. Okay, why? 3 whys that I have. Why would you stay silent on that? Okay, it is what it is. And then she goes on to say, but we're not going to stay silent on this. You're to blame for this, LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy's response basically said, I've had no interactions with this person in several months. It is an ex-girlfriend, and that is what it is. She said that recently he began to demand jewelry back that he gave her. Okay, another why there. First of all, you give a girl a gift. It is what it is. It is what it is. Trust me, I have my share of exes, and if I was to go back and get everything back from all of them, okay, again, why? If that's what he did. So there's a lot of whys to this, but apparently recently he said to her, he said, it would be a shame if you got robbed and you lost that jewelry that you won't give back to me. Okay, go back full circle. We listen to the 911 call. It is very real, okay? So her house did get broken into. That much we do know is fact. She did get beat up pretty severely. That much we do know to be a fact. So what we don't know is, one, unfortunately, maybe this was just a random home invasion, and she's using this opportunity to capitalize on LaShawn McCoy. 2, the other scenario is Sean McCoy hired a hitman to go in there and take the jewelry. 3, was the jewelry taken the only jewelry that he wants back? Was that the only jewelry that it was? 4, if that's the case, where does the jewelry end up at? So a lot to unravel here. So you look at things on the surface, it doesn't look good for LaShawn McCoy at all. He's hired an attorney that defended Ray Rice, who should be in prison. Maybe he feels like, hey, if this is happening, I've got to have the best defense possible. You can't blame him for that. Or maybe there's something more to the surface. So on the surface, does not look good for LaShawn McCoy. But as we've seen in the past, Ed, we've seen 2 sides of this before. We've seen women take advantage of their association with NFL players, NBA players, whatever, and make false accusations and stage things. But this just seems like a very elaborate stage, if in fact that's what it was. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, well, you kind of just laid it out there, and as far as staging it goes, the last thing you said, I find it hard to believe that a woman would absorb that kind of a beating just to get back at her husband. I mean, as far as we know, that picture is accurate. Her face was destroyed, as she said in the 911 tapes. I just don't see anybody taking that kind of beating just to get back at an ex. In fact, those, her wounds, which were horrible to look at, her face was kind of a pulp. To me, I don't think if it's just a casual robbery or a home invasion, I don't think she gets beaten like that. Those injuries seem to be more consistent with someone who is either sending a message or it's a very personal type of attack to beat somebody like that. Otherwise, if you're just robbing a home, and I've never robbed a home, but I would think if you're going to, you would just try to, subdue the person with maybe one quick blow to the back of the head or something like that, knock them unconscious. But I don't think you would stand there and beat them repeatedly with the butt end of a pistol, which is, I think, what she's alleging here is that's what happened.
Right.
But so to me, these wounds, these injuries seem kind of consistent with someone who was trying to send a message. And that's just my kind of my 10-cent take on it. Right? I mean, I'm not an expert in these things, but that would seem to be the way these things play out, is when someone gets beaten like that, it's more of a personal thing, not just a home invasion. And you're right, Shady McCoy hired this attorney. I think his name is Dan Samuel from who defended who defended Ray Lewis from the murder charges.
My apologies. I am so sorry. I said Ray Rice earlier. I meant to say Ray Lewis. Well, I feel so bad. Ray Rice wasn't an angel by any stretch, but Ray Lewis was who we were talking about. Go right ahead. Yeah,
right. The Ray Lewis situation at the Super Bowl years ago with the murder that took place, I believe it was in Atlanta. And anyway, this attorney, Samuel, got him off. So, McCoy has gone out and hired himself a real heavy hitter here, which makes you wonder, like, okay, I know he's the best in the business, but Shady's been involved in some previous incidents. In 2013, he allegedly had a party bus on its way to New York City. It's when he played here in Philadelphia. The history showed that in 2013, this party bus was going to New York, and there were 15 to 20 women on it, several men, several of his entourage, and they tried to spray water on some of the women, just goofing around and having fun. And this one woman didn't like it, didn't want anything to do with it, so they held her down and they poured beer on her, and then they kicked her off the bus on the New Jersey Turnpike. And then the women that were a part of this entourage convinced McCoy and his people to turn around and get her, which they did. They went back, they got her, they picked her up, and then they brought her to the next rest stop and dropped her off there. This woman brought a civil lawsuit. I think it was eventually settled out of court. But, there's a history here with Shady having these kinds of incidents, and never before has he hired this type of an attorney, this real heavy hitter who isn't cheap, no question about it. This guy's charging top dollar for sure. So McCoy must feel like he has to defend himself as vigorously as he can against these charges, which is a little suspect. Maybe he feels like, he's in hot water here. Maybe he did it. I don't know. I'm not saying he did. But to me, it just seems strange that, this woman was beaten as severely as she was. The jewelry was taken. She said that she believes she was set up. Now, I'll say this, Tom. I saw last night that this woman's attorney, her name is Delisha Corden, is McCoy's girlfriend. The attorney for the woman said that she doesn't think, she's not so sure now that she did get set up by McCoy. So the story has changed several times since it did come out this week. Now, that could just be a woman who is fearful for her life, right? We see the battered woman syndrome. They don't want to press charges. They don't want to move forward because they're afraid, of the consequences going forward. So that could be the case. But, this story has changed several times already this week. And, to me, it's going to change a few more times, and it's going to be a while before we get to the bottom of it. Meanwhile, McCoy is back on the practice field training to get ready for the Buffalo Bills training camp.
Which brings me to the next segment of this story, and we're certainly going to be following it. Like you said, there's a lot of twists and turns, and I was listening to another sportscaster, Clay Travis, who's also